Part 81. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Hua Liao. Chapter 801. The next day, Mu Zi followed Mr. Sidhu and Chen Kailing to Jingling City. The old man is old and inevitably has some geriatric diseases, so he cannot fly, so they choose to take the train. The entire business district of the high-speed rail train is covered. The business area has a separate toilet, bar, cloakroom, and refrigerator, which are comparable to the first-class business seats of an airplane. After Muzi and his party enter, part of the guards will guard the front and rear doors, and some will stay in the first-class seat area behind to prevent passengers from accidentally entering. Rush. After Mr. Sidhu got in the car, he adjusted the seat and lay down to rest. Chen Kailing took a bottle of water and handed it to Mu Zi, showing some kindness. Mu Zi didn't refuse, took it and unscrewed the bottle cap, and took a sip. "Miss Mu, thank you very much," Chen Kailing said. "You don't have to keep thanking me." Mu Zi smiled helplessly. "Even if someone I don't know has leukemia, I will help." Mu Zi agreed to donate bone marrow, not because of the love between father and daughter. If it were someone else, if only her bone marrow could save lives, she would definitely not refuse to save her life. Chen Kailing understood what Mu Zi meant. She was silent for a while, and then said again, "No matter what, I still want to thank you." Perhaps for Mu Zi, this is just a very simple decision, but it is related to the future of the Sidhu family. Otherwise, Sidhu Yan's parents lost their son in their later years, and Chen Kailing lost her spouse in middle age. Such tragedies, it is not an exaggeration to say that the sky is falling. Mr. Sidhu had already fallen asleep, and Mu Zi and Chen Kailing sat on the other side, talking in a low voice. Mu Zi asked, "When did you find out?" "Last month." Chen Kailing couldn't bear the soreness. At first it was just a lack of energy and a loss of appetite, and then the low-grade fever recurred. We all thought it was because we were too tired during the campaign, and we suddenly fainted last month, and we didn't know until we were sent to the hospital it's leukemia. Mu Zi thought silently. Last month, that is, shortly after the New Year's speech, he fell ill and was admitted to the hospital. Sidhu Yan has experienced ups and downs in life. Chen Kailing said, "He has no brothers, sisters, or children. The old man and the old lady want to donate bone marrow, but they are too old, and the doctor will not allow it. They say that even transplantation is useless, and the hematopoietic vitality is not enough to save Yan." "Why didn't you come to see me a month ago?" Mu Zi asked her. Chen Kailing's expression froze for a moment. She lowered her eyes, and explained, "At that time, I didn't know it would be so serious." Mu Zi smiled lightly, and didn't ask any more questions. Chen Kailing was a little flustered, as if Mu Zi had noticed something, so she excused herself to go to the bathroom, got up and left. In fact, Sidhu's family was in turmoil during this period. Even during the New Year's festival, there were constant quarrels, and the family was full of sadness and anger. When people are in extreme grief, they will become resentful, lose their minds, and even escape from reality. Mrs. Sidhu questioned the doctor more than once, "Did you make a mistake? How could my son have leukemia? Did you check it out?" Only the diagnostic examination was repeated 3 times. The doctor informed them that they would start preparing for bone marrow transplantation, and informed them that the age of the bone marrow donor should not exceed 55 years old. The old lady scolded Chen Kailing in the ward, "Why didn't you have a child? If you gave birth to a child early, my son, it won't be what it is today. If something happens to my son, don't worry about it." After scolding, the old lady burst into tears again. "You are talking. Why didn't you have a baby? Why didn't you have a baby? I know that the news is talking about umbilical cord blood now. As long as you give birth to a baby and have umbilical cord blood, my son will be happy. I can be saved. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 802. Umbilical cord blood refers to the blood that remains in the umbilical cord and placenta of a newborn baby after the umbilical cord is ligated. The latest medical discovery, cord blood can treat many blood system diseases. However, one umbilical cord blood is only enough for a child under 10 years old to do a stem cell transplant. Even if Chen Kailing gave birth to a child, the umbilical cord blood is not enough. They still need to go to the blood bank to find other matching umbilical cord blood, and the umbilical cord blood is very important for matching. It is more demanding than bone marrow, and it is very difficult to find the right one. The old lady grabbed the umbilical cord blood like a life-saving straw, tightly grabbed Chen Kailing's shoulders, and shook her desperately, forcing her to have a baby. Chen Kailing was sobbing and couldn't say a word. Sidu Yan on the hospital bed couldn't take it anymore, and shouted, "It has nothing to do with her. I don't want to have a baby myself." Sidu Yan had said this before at home. Whenever the family was sitting at the dinner table, Mrs. Sidu started to talk about other people's grandchildren and beat Chen Kailing inside and out. Sidu Yan would say that she didn't want a child yet. Chen Kailing would be grateful for her husband's thoughtfulness, but Mrs. Sidu thought it was a kind of protection from her son to his wife. Looking at her son who was getting thinner and haggard on the hospital bed, Mrs. Sidu cried and said, "In the past, you didn't want to have a baby, so it's fine. What do you do now? You unfilial son. Do you want us white-haired people to send black-haired people? Let the Sidu family die." Sidu Yan closed his eyes dejectedly. "I can't give birth." The old lady was stunned for a long while, then rushed to the hospital bed and asked him, "What do you mean you can't give birth? You are a good person, how can you not give birth?" "Ah. I had a ligation," Sidu Yan said. "After Ruan Li left, I went out to stay for a few days. You thought I went to relax, but I was actually going for an operation." The two women in the ward were all stunned. Chen Kailing looked at Sidu Yan in disbelief. She hadn't been able to conceive a child for so many years. She always thought it was because their children were unmarried. Who would have thought that he had undergone sterilization operation early? The old lady's face was pale, trembling all over, as if she couldn't catch her breath. She suddenly raised her hand and slapped Sidu Yan across the face. "This time, I have used my strength." Red marks immediately appeared on Sidu Yan's cheeks. Just at this time, Mr. Sidu and the attending doctor walked into the ward. The old lady pointed tremblingly at Sidu Yan on the hospital bed, turned her head to Mr. Sidu and said, "Look at your good son, he has taken revenge on me. He is taking revenge on me." The doctor is not easy to ask about family affairs, so he had to remind the old man, no matter what it is, the top priority now is to create the best medical conditions for Mr. President. After the doctor went out and the door was closed, Mr. Sidu asked what was going on again, and his face darkened. Some people get angry and vent out, roaring and crying like the old lady, while others are just the opposite, like black rain clouds before a storm, piled up layer by layer, pressing to the extreme. "What do you think?" Mr. Sidu asked his son. "I didn't want to take revenge on anyone, I just simply didn't want a child," Sidu Yan said calmly. "I'm not sure about being a qualified father, and I don't want my child to live like a marionette after birth, so I did it." "Operation?" The old gentleman sneered. "Can a marionette sit in the position of president?" Chen Kailing saw her father-in-law's suppressed anger, and was afraid that he would beat Sidu Yan like a mother-in-law, so she hurriedly said, "Dad." Yan was only 22 years old at that time, he was just impulsive. It wasn't on purpose. Young people in their early 20s can do all kinds of dizzy things on impulse, and it has been so long that it is meaningless to pursue it. Looking at his seriously ill son, the old man swallowed all his anger. "I'm going to Xinjiang," the old man said in a deep voice. "Even if you risk your old face, you have to bring that girl back." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 803. Go to Xinjiang to invite someone. Who is it? Everyone has the answer in their hearts. It's just that Muzi declared openly before that she was not a child of Sidhu's family, and she clearly wanted to separate her relationship. For so many years, the Sidhu family had ignored her, and now they just asked her to donate bone marrow, and they would feel ashamed and flustered whoever would have gone. However, the son's life is far more important than face. The old man is already in his 70s, and there is only such a son. If he is really gone, it can be said that the old man has nothing to think about for the rest of his life. Sidhu Yan was silent when he heard the words and did not object. Now is not the time to think about face, but the time to think about life and death, and he also wants to live. This matter was settled, and when Mr. Sidhu and Mrs. Madam returned home, Ning Yue heard about it, but there was a disturbance. Will she disagree? Ning Yue asked aloud during dinner that day. Her words were like throwing a stone into the lake. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and then there were different ripples. Seeing everyone's serious expressions, Ning Yue explained in a low voice, I don't mean anything else. I just think that if she has a grudge against uncle for so many years, will she take the opportunity to ask her for help? Sarcasm for us. I also feel sorry for my uncle is so old. At the dinner table, both the old lady and the old gentleman stopped their chopsticks. Ning Yue's words were exactly what they were most worried about. What is Muzi's attitude towards Sidhu's family? Does she think that Sidhu Yan is a heartless man who abandoned his wife and daughter, and now that he is terminally ill, it is also a retribution? If that's the case, the old gentleman's trip is tantamount to humiliating himself. No, Chen Kaling said softly, I don't think Miss Mu is that kind of person. What kind of person is she, do you know? Mrs. Sidhu squinted at her, her voice was cold. How many times have you seen her? Do you know what kind of person she is? Chen Kaling lowered her head, not wanting to annoy the old lady again. It's not like before. The blood bank is full of stocks and the success rate of matching is high. Ning Yue wanted to persuade him again, but she didn't want to be too obvious, and said with a sneer, I also want uncle to get better soon, but I just don't think we should bet all your hopes on Miss Mu. You have to try any method. Yue is right. We really shouldn't put all our hopes on her, the old lady said in a cold voice with gloomy eyes, and whether that girl is a Yan's child has never been determined. I took out all the family photos on the show, and the photos don't look fake. If I make a mistake, wouldn't it be a waste of joy? This is indeed a problem. As long as there is no paternity test, it is impossible to be 100% sure that Muzi is Sidhu Yan's daughter. The atmosphere at the dinner table was dignified. After a long time, Mr. Sidhu said, wait for the news from the blood bank first. If it doesn't work, I'll go to Xinjiang. Whether it's true or not, I won't know until I go. The old man spoke, and no one objected. However, in the following month, the blood bank failed to find a suitable match. This kind of thing is really uncertain. Some patients found a suitable match within a few days after being admitted to the hospital, and some patients did not meet a suitable match until they died. Mr. Sidhu didn't dare to gamble with his son's life, so he immediately set off for Xinjiang. And because Chen Kaling had contact with Muzi before, and the old man was old and needed someone to take care of him, so Chen Kaling also followed. It was just 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the train arrived at the station. When Muzi stepped out of the train, a gust of wind blew, and she subconsciously gathered her scarf. Compared with Xinjiang, the air in Jingling is less soft and more cold. The bodyguard came to help Muzi carry the luggage, but Muzi didn't let go. She pulled her suitcase and looked at Mr. Sidhu and Chen Kaling. Since I'm here to donate bone marrow, I can ask you any questions I have, right? Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 804. Chen Kaling was a little astonished, and subconsciously went to see Mr. Sidhu. If they want something from others, they should naturally give something. It's just that they were immersed in joy along the way and forgot that Muzi might have demands. Mr. Sidhu also looked at Muzi with some doubts. Chen Kaling said, "Of course, Miss Mu, if you have any requests, we will try our best to meet them." As he said that, he was also nervous, wondering what request Muzi would make. Would he make things difficult for them? Will there be demands that they cannot fulfill? But, I have already arrived in Jingling. If there is a request, why didn't I mention it before I came? Chen Kaling thought of what Ning Yue said, and her heart was agitated. Muzi said, "Can you help me find a hotel near the hospital? It's closer to the hospital, and it's more convenient for the examination. I'm not used to living in other places, and let outsiders see me walking too close to Sidhu's house. It's not easy to explain." Chen Kaling was stunned when she heard the words. They originally planned to take Muzi home and treat her well, but when Muzi came, she said she would stay in a hotel. Seeing her trouble, Muzi smiled brightly. "Mrs. Chen, you really don't have to pay too much attention to it, just treat me as an ordinary donor. As far as I know, donors and recipients are not allowed to be involved before and after the operation. If we meet, let's follow the rules and let the people in the hospital contact me directly to save unnecessary trouble." Chen Kaling blushed slightly, and said awkwardly, "Miss Mu, we are very sorry for what happened to you these years. This time I sincerely invite you. I've had a good life these years." Muzi stood there, her eyes clear and calm. "I understand your scruples, but there's really no need to be like this. I didn't participate in what happened before, and I didn't know about it. It's just a strange and distant surname, and this time I came to donate bone marrow, and it's just a bone marrow donation. I don't think there's any need for us to complicate this matter." Chen Kaling looked at her father-in-law. Mr. Sidhu was silent for a moment, then said in a deep voice, "Everything will be done according to Miss Mu's wishes." Muzi lived in the hotel as she wished. She neither wants to accept the favor of the Sidhu family, nor does she want to have a bad relationship with the Sidhu family. The best way is to keep a distance. If you live in Sidhu Yan's house, you have to bother to greet each other, deal with all kinds of people, and explain over and over again that you really don't hold grudges against Sidhu Yan. It's too tiring. Donate bone marrow, why should you wrong yourself? After Muzi arrived at the hotel, she put her things away and lay down on the bed. She took out her mobile phone and sent Murong Cheng a video call invitation. After waiting for quite a while, the invitation was accepted. The Murong Cheng inside was shirtless, with short black hair in a disheveled mess. A few strands of wet hair hung on the tip of his eyebrows, and he was handsome and charming. "What are you doing?" Muzi couldn't help laughing, feeling happy when she saw him. "Wait a minute," Murong Cheng said, and placed the phone farther away, so that the camera could capture his entire upper body and the background behind him. Muzi saw it clearly, and suddenly realized, "You are bathing Sisi." Just finished washing, Murong Cheng puts Sisi on his body, and the python weighing more than 100 kgs on his arms was like a thickened and elongated dumbbell, which he lifted up and down. He asked Muzi, "Am I powerful?" "Your childish," Muzi complained with a smile. "You are too annoying. Put Sisi down quickly, it will faint." Murong Cheng put Sisi down, let it crawl away slowly, wiped his hands, and then took the phone back. "Aren't you afraid that you have to draw bone marrow?" Murong Cheng asked her. "Actually, I'm a little scared," Muzi smiled. "I'm afraid I have to go. The patient has already started to prepare for the transplant with high-dose chemotherapy." It's not kind to shrink back on the spot at this time. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 805. After all, it was something I had never experienced before, so I was a little nervous, but compared to the torture of the patient, my own fear and nervousness seemed insignificant. I was admitted to the hospital the next day and had a physical examination, blood test, chest x-ray, electrocardiogram, B ultrasound and so on. She was young, and she would occasionally go to the gym with Zhang Ci to practice boxing. Her physical fitness was very good, and the test results showed no problems. Then she collected her own blood, and I didn't feel anything. After being admitted to the hospital, she had to deal with various examinations, and sometimes doctors and nurses came in and out, so I didn't call home anymore. A few days later, mobilization injections were given. In order to activate hematopoietic stem cells, injections were given twice a day for 5 consecutive days. It is said that some people will feel very uncomfortable after this injection, and some people will not feel it. It all depends on the individual's physique. On the last day of the fight, I felt dizzy and drowsy, and her back was sore and swollen. Although it was not painful, it was still very uncomfortable. She lay on the bed and didn't want to move, and fell asleep in a daze. When she fell asleep in the middle of the night, she heard her mobile phone ringing. "Aren't you going to have surgery tomorrow?" Murong Cheng's deep voice came from there. Yamuza closed her eyes and murmured, "Bone marrow will be drawn tomorrow." Murong Cheng felt sorry for her, and asked, "Will it hurt?" I laughed, "It will definitely hurt if you pump it directly. If you need anesthesia, you won't feel any pain at that time. Don't be in a hurry to come back after the operation, stay here for a while, take care of your health, and then go to Jingling to pick you up after I'm done with the matter here," Murong Cheng said. "Then when are you coming to pick me up?" There was no answer from the other end of the phone for a while. Musa waited for a while, her slightly awake head became confused again. Half asleep, she heard Murong Cheng say, "Zizi, remember, don't trust anyone, what the eyes see may not be true." I thought, is he worried that I will be cheated by Sidhu's family? There was another sound, which was indistinctly audible from a distance, like a distant cannon outside the window, or a mobile phone, or an auditory hallucination in a dream. "Hello, Murong Cheng." I murmured, closed her eyes and waited for Murong Cheng to reply. After waiting for a long time, finally fell asleep. When she woke up the next morning, she thought of the phone call and felt weird. Could it be that he was thinking day by day and dreaming at night, dreaming that Murong Cheng called him? There was no time to think about it, because the doctor had already come in and pushed her to the operating room. I didn't know if it was because of her special constitution. After the anesthetic was applied, she could still feel the pain. When the needle went in, she subconsciously clenched the quilt tightly, and tears burst out, completely out of control. The nurse immediately guided her to take a deep breath, and the second half was a little better, and she could go back to the ward to rest after drawing 300 ml of bone marrow blood. When I asked how she was doing, the doctor thought she was a donor brought by Sidhu's family, and praised her for being brave and strong, and said that her bone marrow was very rich and her hematopoietic activity was also very good. She smiled and breathed a sigh of relief. It's good to be able to save people. After all, she traveled thousands of miles to check up and draw blood, and no one wants to do useless work. The nurse pushed her back to the ward, and told her not to move after the operation, to keep lying down as much as possible, and to rest in bed more often. I thought, even if you don't tell me, I will never move when I lie down. She was so sore all over that she fell asleep when she lay down. When she woke up, it was already afternoon. Perhaps due to the influence of the drug residue, she didn't feel hungry, but felt very relaxed after finishing one thing. I called Murong Cheng, wanting to tell him that she had finished the operation. The mobile phone dialed it, but it reminded the other party that it was turned off and could not be connected. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, HandsomeMaleLead. Chapter 806. I held up her mobile phone and lost her mind for a moment. Cheng's cell phone is rarely turned off, and even when it is inconvenient to be disturbed, he will only set it to conference mode instead of turning it off directly. After waiting for a while, I dialed the number again, but the phone was still shutting down. The phone call from last night suddenly came to mind, and I's heart skipped a beat. What happened? What did he say? Was he trying to hint at himself? I panicked and dialed Baiwei's number instead, and Baiwei answered the call quickly. Zizi? Is the operation over? Baiwei asked. Well, it's over, I asked. Mom, is brother at home? I haven't seen him for several days. Baiwei's tone was normal. Chen used to not go home for several days in a row, so Baiwei didn't think there was anything wrong. Is there anything you can do with your brother? Baiwei said. When he comes back, I'll ask him to call you. Zizi, how do you feel now? Are you tired? Does the wound hurt? Or mother will go take care of you? No, I'm fine. I didn't have the heart to chat with Baiwei, so she made up a random reason and ended the call. She couldn't lie down any longer, and felt terrified, and the more she thought about it, the more frightened she became. I carefully recalled the phone call last night, but I couldn't think of a reason. He said don't go back in a hurry after the operation. Is there someone in Xinjiang who is against me? Or is he in danger? He said don't trust anyone. Did he want me to be more vigilant, or did he point out that someone would lie to me? What does he mean when he says that what the eye sees is not necessarily true? I's head was about to explode, and all kinds of thoughts flooded her brain, driving her crazy. Suddenly, she remembered that there was a strange ringing at the end of the phone call. Is it gunshots? I's heart skipped a beat. In fact, she was no longer sure whether the voice came from reality or a dream. At that time, her head was too heavy, she was too sleepy, and her mental state was not good. The information she received was false and true, and there was no way to verify it. If it was a gunshot, was Chen injured? If not gunshots, where would the sound come from? It was useless to ask Baiwei, and to call Wang Zhan, but he couldn't get through either. For the first time in I's life, he tasted the feeling of being without a master. She thought that some news media would regularly publish gossip news about the four major families, especially the bloody storms in the wealthy families, which were the favorite topics of reporters. Turning on the phone to check, the striking news were all related to Sidu Yan. The news of Sidu Yan's leukemia has been tightly held. After confirming that the problem of bone marrow blood source was resolved, the public relations team in the presidential palace, which was responsible for responding to public opinion, immediately released the news. After deliberate guidance, public opinion rendered Sidu Yan as an anti-the-cancer hero, between the lines, praised the president for his fearless strength and optimism in the face of the disease. It is a bit of an exaggeration, but this kind of work is really necessary, because the image of the president will inspire the people. Like a star, he must always be active, healthy, and righteous. I browsed for a long time, but didn't see any news about Huo's family. She belatedly realized that since she came to Jingling, her mobile phone has intelligently pushed the news of the surrounding areas of Jingling. Four major families, Huo, Gu, Chen, and Yin. Only the Chen family and the Yin family are based in the northern city, while the Huo family and the Gu family are based in the south. I marked the location of the area as Xinjiang, and immediately a striking headline popped up: Patriarch of the Huo family died. The yacht exploded and no one survived. Mu Zi's eyes suddenly turned black. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 807. Chen Kailing knew that she was going to have an operation today, so she got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, prepared ingredients in the kitchen, and stewed nourishing soup. He had been receiving injections for the past few days, and the doctor ordered him to eat a light diet. Mu Zi ate only the set meals issued by the hospital. Now that the surgery is over, she is weak, so it's time to drink some tonics. Stewed soup pays attention to the cooking time. Chen Kailing got up in the morning and started to work. Counting the time, it can be stewed for 6 hours until noon. There are also servant chefs at home, but they are made by themselves, which shows more sincerity. Mu Zi saved Chen Kailing's husband, which was equivalent to saving the rest of Chen Kailing's life, and Chen Kailing was very grateful to her. When she was busy, the old lady came to the kitchen and looked at her lukewarmly. Chen Kailing turned around and suddenly saw the old lady. She was so frightened that she almost dropped the spoon in her hand. The old lady frowned. You are such a big person, why are you still bluffing? What does it look like? Chen Kailing forced a smile. What is this? The old lady came over, staring at the dark red-purple casserole, for a yen. Chen Kailing was a little embarrassed, and explained, a yen is not suitable for taking supplements these days, this one is for Miss Mu. She knew that the old lady had a knot in her heart towards Mu Zi, and at the end of the sentence, her voice became smaller and smaller, a little afraid that the old lady would suddenly get angry. The old lady had a stiff face, she couldn't see how she was feeling. She lifted the lid of the pot and looked at it, said, the chicken is not stewed like this, you go to my room, there is a fresh ginseng in the cabinet, bring it here. Chen Kailing was very surprised and froze on the spot for a while, unable to react. Why are you in a daze? The old lady frowned, and said with a straight face, why, do you think I'm the kind of person who doesn't know what to do? She saved a yen, and I'm not so foolish as to repay my kindness with revenge. Don't worry, bring it quickly, if it's too late, it won't taste good. Oh, good, Chen Kailing hurried to get ginseng. The son was saved, and the old lady was in a good mood, so today she looked very amiable. At noon, the family gathered around the dining table for lunch, and the atmosphere was rare and relaxed. I'm going to the hospital with Kailing today. The old lady let go of her old hostility and said calmly, give that girl some tonics, and visit her. By the way, no matter how you say it, it's thanks to her this time, so I should thank her well. Old Mr. Sidhu nodded slightly, and said, that kid is pretty good, he has a certain amount of advance and retreat, and he is quite famous. There was a little pride in the words, as if boasting of the good blood of the Sidhu family. Seeing the good atmosphere, Chen Kailing also tried to express her own thoughts. I also think that I should thank you well, but I don't know how to express my gratitude and use money directly, it seems tacky. I don't know what to give as a gift. That's a problem. At the dinner table, everyone discussed how to give gifts, and each shared their opinions, while Ning Yue ate with her head down, without saying a word. It was almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the old lady and Chen Kailing arrived at the hospital because of the delay in discussing about choosing gifts. When going into the ward, the old lady hesitated a bit. The old lady has complicated feelings towards Mu Zi. Thinking that it is that woman's child, I feel disgusted. Thinking that this is my only granddaughter, I look forward to it. Thinking of Mu Zi's willingness to donate bone marrow, I feel grateful. Thinking of Mu Zi's unwillingness to live in Sidhu's house, and wanting to get rid of the relationship, the old lady was very ashamed and angry again. When the old lady was struggling, Chen Kailing had already knocked on the door of the ward. There was no sound from inside. Even though she was in a good mood, the old lady couldn't help being mean when she spoke. Wait for a long time and ignore people. How can you look like you are seeing your elders? It seems that saying this can cover up the embarrassment in my heart. Chen Kaling said, maybe he was taking a nap, I didn't hear it. The door of the ward was unlocked, Chen Kaling opened it gently, and when they saw the situation inside, the two of them froze in place unexpectedly. The room was empty. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 808. What about people? Where is Mu Zi? For a moment, Chen Kaling almost thought that she had made a mistake in the ward, but there was still a small tag with Mu Zi's name on the end of the bed, so it was impossible to make a mistake. Did you go to the bathroom? The advanced wards have their own bathrooms, so there is no need to go to the toilet outside. Chen Kaling found a nurse and asked her where the patients in the ward had gone. The nurse was so busy that she didn't know anything about it. It happened that another nurse passed by in a hurry, heard their question, and interrupted, just now I saw the girl go away, she seemed to be in a hurry, and she didn't respond to me calling twice. Chen Kaling was stunned. Mu Zi left? Just leave without saying a word? The old lady's face was ashen, she snorted heavily, turned around and left. Chen Kaling was carrying the insulated lunch box, she didn't want to leave, she didn't want to leave, she hesitated a few steps in embarrassment, and hurriedly followed the old lady. Mu Zi took a taxi and went straight to Jingling City Airport. She didn't even take her luggage, she just hurriedly changed her hospital gown and ran out of the hospital. The heating was turned on in the taxi, and she was sitting in the back seat with her mobile phone in her arms. The blood in her body seemed to be frozen. She was so cold that she couldn't help shivering, and her hands and feet were also stiff. She went through all the news about the bombing, and the conclusion of every news was that Huo Rong must die. That night, the yacht was singing and dancing on the river, and there was an accidental oil spill, which caught fire and exploded. The mushroom cloud caused by the explosion was filled with flames, almost boiling the river. All 35 guests and 50 crew members on the yacht were killed, and none survived. The photo attached to the news shows the scene of the salvage by the staff. You can see the wreckage of the yacht and the mutilated limbs soaked in the water. It is impossible to tell whose arms or whose legs it is. Which part of it is his? Mu Zi felt cold, so cold that her teeth were shivering, and she could hardly hold the phone steadily. The driver in front called her twice before she finally recovered and found that she had arrived at the airport. When she bent down to open the door, her back was tingling, and the stagnation was indescribable. She didn't care, staggered out of the car, and hurried to the airport. There were people dragging luggage all around. Mu Zi kept on stepping, her eyes were staring at the front in panic, she didn't know whose luggage tripped her, she lost her center of gravity and fell forward. Be careful, someone supported her firmly. Mu Zi turned her head to look, her eyes widened in astonishment, young Master Gu. Why is Gu Liang here? Before Mu Zi could ask him, Gu Liang said to the other end of the phone, yes, we found her. She is at the airport. I will take her back to the hospital now. Mu Zi immediately grabbed his arm and asked eagerly, whose phone is it? Is it Huo Rong? He's still alive, right? Gu Liang took her hand and walked out. I'll take you back to the hospital first, you just finished the operation and need to rest. Mu Zi followed his steps stiffly, and asked, is that the call from Huo Rong? Is it him? But Gu Liang didn't answer. Mu Zi stopped, shook off his hand vigorously, and refused to follow him. Anger appeared in her eyes, and she shouted, say it. Who is calling? Gu Liang was silent, with an unbearable expression on his face. It's Wang Zhan's call. Huo Zheng is searching for Huo Rong's body all over Qingjiang. If you go back, you will definitely be watched by Huo Zheng. Mu Zi was stunned. There was no light in her eyes, and there was an indescribable confusion on her dazed face. which made people feel distressed. Gu Liang's eyes showed sorrow. He held Mu Ziyi's cold hand tightly, and brought her back to his car. Huo Zheng wanted to play tricks at the retreat meeting. Huo Rong knew it well and prepared secretly, but no one expected that the yacht would suddenly explode. The Huo family was seriously injured this time, and everyone who participated in the retreat meeting died. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Blessed to have each other in this life, Mu Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 809. The retirement meeting is a celebration as well as a ceremony, but anyone who is highly respected by Holiday will participate. Everyone gathered together to have a good time, compliment Huo Rong's ability, praise his contributions, and thank him for his contributions to the Huo family. It looks harmonious. Except for Huo Zheng and two elderly uncles who didn't attend because of poor health, almost all other members of the Huo family went. Then a sudden explosion killed all these people. If the Huo family was a big piece of fat, the Huo family would be wolves guarding the side of the fat. Now that the pack of wolves has decreased by half, how can they keep this piece of fat? The Huo family will be in turmoil for a long time after this difficulty. Facing such a mess, Huo Zheng was so angry that he would definitely retaliate against Huo Rong crazily. Gu Liang told Mu Ziyi, no one believes that Huo Rong is dead, and neither does Huo Zheng. In order to force Huo Rong to show up, he will use any means. When you arrive at Qingjiang airport by plane, he may be arrested and taken as a prisoner hostage. The cronies of Wang Zhan and Huo Rong have already retreated to Xianghai City, and there are also Huo Zheng's men there. They are at their wits' end, and they are worried that you will run back to Qingjiang if you see the news, and Huo Zheng will be taken advantage of for nothing. That's why they asked me specifically. In front of you, let me help you find you. Mu Ziyi sat quietly in the car, staring blankly at the front. Her voice didn't seem to be her own. Is he still alive? She doesn't care about other things, she just wants to know one thing now, is he still alive? Gu Liang remained silent. He won't die, Mu Ziyi murmured. The fortune teller said that he is the fate of a tyrant in troubled times, and unless God lets him die, no one can kill him. Tell him to die into auspiciousness. When Gu Liang heard her say this, his eyes became more painful. It will be fine. I don't know if it's Huo Rong or Mu Ziyi. He will definitely not die, Mu Ziyi said in a low voice. He can come back alive after falling into Shark Bay or Viper Cave. Even if he encounters an explosion, he will definitely be fine. Mu Ziyi found all the excuses and told herself over and over again that Murong Chen would not die. Absolutely not dead. How could it be possible to die? They have already planned the future, and they only need to wait for her to be 18 years old to really be together, to build a home on a warm island in all seasons, to stay away from gossip and conspiracy calculations, to hold a wedding, to live together, and to raise their offspring. Zhuang Jie said it would be best to have children of mixed race, but she didn't envy him at all. She just wanted to give birth to him, 2 daughters. Tears flowed down unknowingly, and fell to the mouth, cold and bitter. But why cry? He obviously didn't die, so she shouldn't cry. When the car arrived at the hospital, a new alert popped up on the news hotspot on the phone. The salvage team had just found the remaining fabric of Murong Cheng's clothes that day, and the resolution of the photo was very clear. The navy blue fabric had delicate dark pattern embroidery, and in the crevices of the silk thread, blood stains remained. Mu Ziyi just glanced at it, her body immediately collapsed, and she passed out. Subconsciously, she thought that she shouldn't faint. At such a critical moment, she should look for clues more carefully to figure out what happened to the explosion. But she couldn't bear it. There were bursts of blackness in front of her eyes, and the blood flowed backwards all over her body, and then she lost consciousness. Blessed to have each other in this life, Shao, your wife is born again. Author, Hua Liao. Chapter 810. When he woke up, Gu Liang was sitting beside the hospital bed. Musa was dumbfounded, and then all the things came rushing to her mind. She remembered those news, and also remembered the photo she saw before she fainted. She would not mistake that piece of fabric. Murong Cheng specially prepared an old-fashioned and rich cardigan, and she was deeply impressed. The clothes were extremely top-notch, even the buttons were inlaid with turquoise, and the borders were gorgeous and exquisite, showing exquisiteness everywhere. Musi couldn't bear it any longer, her tears instantly flowed like a waterfall. She sat on the bed and cried bitterly. Horse! Is Murong Cheng still alive? Even his clothes were blown to pieces. Is it possible for him to be alive? She has always known that this man is full of evil, doing evil, dealing with those tigers and wolves every day, and he will definitely not end well in the future. It's like every head of the Huo family died unexpectedly. She worried about this time and time again, and took the guilt for it time and time again, and finally one day Murong Cheng told her that he was going to be a good person. She was so happy that she couldn't help herself, and her heart became relieved. But now she regrets it. If the price of washing his hands is so terrible, she would rather he be the villain he was before. Be a heinous villain. It's better than losing your life for nothing now. Gu Liang stepped forward to caress her back. She cried in pain, her shoulders twitched so badly, Gu Liang didn't even dare to touch her much. He won't die, Musi cried until she was exhausted. Her eyes were covered with layers of black mist, her consciousness gradually lost. She heard Gu Liang keep calling her name softly. But the sound is getting farther and farther away. She couldn't hear clearly and didn't want to hear it. In a daze, I remembered what Murong Cheng told her on the phone. Even if what I saw with my own eyes, it might not be true. Was he implying that she should not believe the news? Don't trust that bloody cloth? Or, don't trust Gu Liang? Musi was in extreme grief, lost her clarity of mind, and had a dark guess in her heart. Murong Cheng was well aware of Huo Zheng's intentions. It was impossible not to be on guard, and even if Huo Zheng wanted to deal with Murong Cheng, he would not be able to kill everyone on the yacht. Man, so, who the hell made the yacht blow up? Why can't it be Gu Liang? After the explosion, the Huo family suffered heavy losses. Didn't the Gu family happen to be on top? Murong Cheng said, tell her not to believe anyone. Could this be Gu Liang? When her consciousness was blurred, she felt that there were many people in the ward, and a cold liquid was poured into her skin, and Musi fell into a drowsy sleep. She saw Murong Cheng in her sleep. He was wearing a retro-style satin cardigan, sitting in a yellow rosewood chair, with a large maroon brocade pillow behind him, holding a sky blue RU porcelain teacup in his hand. The eyebrows smiled evilly, flirtatious and extremely handsome. He scolded her in his dream. His tone of contempt and disgust was as usual, but his eyes were doting. Are you a pig? You believe what others say, huh? When she woke up again, Musi calmed down a lot. Lying flat on the bed, she saw Gu Liang guarding the bedside, and said softly, young Master Gu, you have worked so hard to make this trip. Don't worry, I'm fine now. Her voice was hoarse, as if it had been gritted. Gu Liang said, Zizi, everything will pass, you are still young, and there is still a long way to go. It sounded like he was trying to comfort her. Musi shook her head, her tone was very calm. He's not dead, young Master Gu, thank you for taking care of me, but you really don't need to bother to comfort me anymore. A piece of rag can't explain anything. I won't be confused again. When she cried so hard that she fainted, Gu Liang was really worried that she would not be able to hold on, but now that she finally calmed down, Gu Liang was even more worried. It's like a drunk person saying he's not drunk, like a crazy person saying he's not crazy. To be sad to the extreme, is to die like ashes.